Hey, thanks for coming back to the blog today. I want to talk to you about credit scores. One of the very most, I would say probably one of the most important things we have to deal with in buying a house or building you a house is to make sure that you've got good credit scores, that you're able to get your loan. We've got a rule in our business, or I should say a saying. It's called the golden rule. He who's got the gold makes the rules. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine for, gosh, 30 years?
I think so, 30 years.
That's something in that neighborhood. Dick and I were actually partners in a real estate company together back in the 80s. Dick, his career went off into the mortgage business, and he is now with CBS Home Mortgage, which is a division of CBS Home and a joint venture with Wells Fargo. I use Dick quite a bit in my real estate dealings, and I want Dick to talk to you about credit scores and why credit scores are important. And then after he's done, I got a nice little golden nugget that I want to lay out to you and let you think about. So,
okay.
Hey Dick, tell them why credit scores are so important and what they can do to get their credit scores jacked up a little bit.
Got it. I'd be very happy to do that. The credit scores are actually more and more important in today's financial world. You're going to see credit scores run anywhere from 300 to 850. There's a whole range in there. Why it's important is because in today's world, mortgage rates, car loan rates, homeowners insurance premiums, anything you do where you're getting credit or something like that is going to be impacted by your credit score. So everything you do to help improve that score is going to help you financially. Kind of give you an overview of how the credit score is made up, and each of the three different credit reporting agencies have their own little formula that they use, but generally here's kind of how it breaks down is, number one, make payments on time. That makes up 35% of your credit score. Simply making every payment on time will help. Every time you make a bad payment, you make a late payment, you have what you call derogatory credit. It will impact you for a number of years.
In our business, we call that a hiccup or a check mark against you, and you don't want those check marks.
Right, right. And no one, it's tough to be perfect, but you try to do the best you can, and the reality is a late payment last month hurt your credit score more than a late payment 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So that's the good news, is you can kind of heal it. Mm-hmm. Next is just simply the amount of debt, in particular the amount of revolving debt, which is like credit cards, credit lines. The less you owe on your credit card compared to how much you can take out on your credit card, the better. So in other words, if you have a $1,000 credit limit on your card and you're sitting at $900, that's going to be a negative. But if you have $1,000 credit limit and you owe $100 on it, that's actually going to help.
So in one instance, I had a couple call me and they said, Bill, we have a $10,000 credit limit on one of our credit cards. We only charge maybe $1,500 to $2,000 and it's always paid off. That's a good thing for them to be able to keep that, is that right?
Yes, that's a very good thing. Okay. And it's certainly good to pay it off every month because you avoid interest, it helps your credit score. We actually suggest people don't reduce your credit limit, just don't use it. The other piece we also suggest, the credit bureaus tell us the ideal credit score has maybe 2 or 3 open lines of revolving credit. So instead of having 6 different credit cards, it's better to have 2 or 3, just with higher limits. So don't go open new cards, which we'll get to. Another one is just simply the length of credit history. That makes up, the amount of debt you have is about 30% of your credit score. Another 15% is just simply how long you've had your accounts. In other words, a credit card you've had for 10 years does you a lot better than one you just opened last month. A mortgage you've paid on for 4 years helps your credit score more than the one you opened up last month. So the idea is to keep those cards, keep those credit cards you've had for years, just don't close them. If you open up a new one, you may want to close one. But the key is have higher available credit, fewer cards, and keep them for a long time. Another piece, about 10% of the credit score, is actually new credit, which is a combination of credit inquiries, is what we call it, where you've actually gone out and applied for new credit, and somebody has ran your credit. Maybe it's for a new car, maybe it's for a new credit card, maybe it's the department store that particularly this time of season is offering 10-15% discounts to open up one of our credit cards.
Can that be for the first-time home buyer also utility companies where they were renting and they opened up an account?
It could be. We're now seeing rental car companies, utility companies, rental management companies that are running credit. So you just have to be aware of that every time you're asking for credit, someone's probably going to run your credit score.
And sometimes, if that's too often, that can actually be a detriment to them.
Okay. Yeah, because particularly the last 90 days before you make a major purchase. So one of our suggestions is to plan. If you're thinking about a major purchase, a car, a house, avoid running any new credit. Mm-hmm. So that the twofold: one is even running the credit score, number two is opening up new credit.
We have actually had people come into our office, and I've sat them down with Dick, and we have come up with a strategy, a plan to get them from the point where their credit is just marginal to the point where within a year, year and a half, 2 years, they're ready to buy a house.
Right, and it's one of the things we try to help people with, is if we meet with them early in the process, we can kind of walk through it and go, okay, do A, B, and C, and then come back in 6 months. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that makes a lot of sense, particularly when you're talking about some of the other factors. There's about another 10% of your credit score that's made up of things like what type of credit do you have? Is it mortgages? Is it car loans? Is it student loans? Is it revolving debt? The best type of loan to have is a mortgage. That helps you the most. A car loan helps you next. Student loans actually are very positive as long as you're making payments on time. The worst is actually credit cards and revolving debt. So our suggestion is try to do the fixed loans, but you try to avoid credit when you can.
Get those credit cards paid off. Now, we're going to talk about in our next series about different types of loans that are out there, and Dick's going to help me with some of those. But one of the golden nuggets I want to leave you with is for you that have children that are going to college and you want to help those kids establish their credit, don't be afraid to put their name on your credit card. Don't let them know that. Don't give them a credit card. But what that will do is that will help to give them unavailable credit. So if you're in good standings like I am, I put my kids on my credit card. They don't know it, but that's going to help them when they go to get buy a house. Is that
right? Okay. Right. That's one way to establish credit.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about builders' best loans next time. So make it a great day. And Dick, thanks for sharing.
You bet. Happy holidays.